So because I just finished execution, let's talk about it for a second. So as you know, it's courage, resilience, awareness, visualization, execution. And the concept is all of this is to help you show up when the moments matter the most to you, to help you execute when the moments really matter. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on execution, and I want you to talk to me specifically about any type of routine that you could implement or add to your world prior to knowing you have to execute on something in any type of reset opportunity when it didn't go your way, but you still have to do it anyways. I'll give you an example.
Like how do we get to the point of executing, essentially?
Yeah, how do you know the best version of you is going to show up? Is there any tool or tip or trick or?
I certainly don't know if the best version of myself is going to show up.
Could you?
You could try. Yeah, I mean, I think you could. You know, I think for me, my brain goes to, well, you have to take care of the physiologic, right? So you have to be well rested, you have to be well nourished, you have to be well hydrated, you have to be kind of moving and doing all the things. Like there's a reason why if those things are not intact, you're very tired, and you just can't exert a lot of effort. And so that's an important piece of it. It's almost like that's an investment. It costs energy to move, but that is an investment to then gain more energy in the future. But you also have to have enough to begin with, right? And so you have to do all these things to have enough energy, stored up to then be able to expend it on something that is important. And anything that's effortful, pays dividends in some sense. So, and anything restful kind of doesn't. Anything restful kind of stagnates you at the very best, right? So like a day at home where you do nothing. There's nothing energizing about that, right? We often say, well, it's like my rest, and I need to recover. It's it's kind of BS. It's I suppose you could have a restful day, which is energizing, but certainly would include I'm just going to hang out and watch TV, or I'm going to hang out and be on the couch and do whatever. That's not energizing. But yeah, I mean, the problem of how do we actually execute? It's a huge problem.
So I'm going to give you a couple examples just to get you thinking, and then you tell me what you think. So Pressfield, he sat down, but before he sat down to do his work, he wrote down and reread this essentially line from the Odyssey. He found it valuable. He felt like it got his mind in the right spot to read or to start writing, and this was his 5-minute routine. You, in the morning, what time your clients start? 8 a.m., right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that is. Mm-hmm. At 7:50, are you rolling in with a coffee, tucking your hair or whatever? Maybe.
No.
Right? Or have you spent from 7:30 to 7:50 eating your breakfast, sitting down, taking a couple deep breaths, turn on your computer, mm-hmm. right? This process is something that you've actually unknowingly refined, right? With maybe even not even with the intention of making sure the best version of you shows up, but you do know you got to eat before you work, and you got to shower so you feel good, and you got to brush your teeth so that you can smile, whatever, right? These are the things that you kind of did, mm-hmm. but could we put a label on it? And I know you don't like the word label. Could we put a structure into it to say, I have noticed that the best version of me shows up for work when I do these 4 things prior to work. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So work's an easy one or a hard one or whatever, but could you take this structured concept and say, I know tonight I have a difficult conversation coming up. And the best thing that I can do for myself before this difficult conversation is this structure. Take 3 deep breaths, play the conversation in my head, come up with 3 not accusing words that so I don't fly off the handle instead of saying, I'm pissed at you for doing this. My feelings are this, like pre-plan in your brain 3 minutes. And then can we take that, use it, 1, teach it, 2, show it to others, 3, as a form of helping them execute in the moment. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I think and I don't know if like a rough intentionality is good, but a really set one is probably not. In that example, I'm going to have this hard conversation. The temptation is to say, well, I need to have answers to all the questions that are going to be asked. And then it's like, you could see how that gets very muddy, because then it's like, oh, but.
No, ask it to me this way.
Yeah. Wait, do you mean this?
I'm prepared for that one.
You never take out the trash. Do you mean laundry? Do you mean dinner? Is there something? No? Okay. But personally, I found that like transitions are really hard, right? And so like transitioning is definitely where most people get the hang up on execution. And again, it's the hardest problem to solve, because I talk to people all day, you too, about, all right, the answer is like, I have to do this thing. Everyone knows that. But the problem is like, I can't go from here to here, right? I'm on my phone, brain is highly stimulated. How do I go from this like very dopaminergic, providing task, cheap dopamine nonetheless, to this one that like requires an upfront payment that I just don't have the effort to. And they're not necessarily wrong. I mean, this is where it's hard, because like in theory, it's like, I just do it, right? There isn't more to that. But I'd argue that like a better step, instead of going from completely stimulating to like completely effortful, which is probably like a bit of a spectrum. And you say everything's a spectrum, which I agree. There's this like everything, hyper stimulation, which is like what we're very drawn to, and hyper effortful, and which we're very resistant to, right? And this is more like brain energy conservation. And so like, to close that gap, to go from here to here, is basically impossible for most people most of the time, right? It is theoretically possible all the time, but in practice, it's just really not. And so how do you close that gap? Well, I'd argue that you have to take steps through that, right? And so one step is, okay, I'm on my phone, I'm pre-gym, like hopefully. Maybe one step is just like, having decided beforehand, okay, so I scheduled it in, and I have some order to my life. That's great, and I have the physiologic kind of background like taken care of. But it's a lot easier to go from phone use to no phone use versus phone use, stimulated out of my gills, to okay, no phone use, and I got to change, and I got to be doing effortful things, and I got to be driving, and I got to be laundering, and I got to be doing all these different things. So I think it's super helpful to just like remove stimulation for like 10 minutes. You don't have to do anything. In fact, I would say do nothing, right? Because it's hard to go from the stimulation to doing something very, very extremely effortful. It's less hard to go from heavy stimulation to nothing. Right. And that I would argue is the next best step. And and sometimes, and it's also like, how do you compromise with yourself? Well, that's a good way. Well, maybe I won't go to the gym, but let me take at least a 10-minute break. Something that's like moderately effortful in some sense, because it kind of is for a lot of people. Just sit there and do 10 minutes and nothing.
Are you kidding? Yes.
That's pretty hard. But we expect ourselves to not only take on that feeling, but make it worse through like gym strain and all that kind of jazz, and social anxiety, whatever comes from that. So yeah, the absence of something, instead of like thinking I had to do more, well, we're going to take away things. We're going to take away the phone. We're going to take away the stimulation. We're just going to sit there and breathe. And from that spot, way easier, especially 10 minutes in. 5 minutes in, too much limbic friction. 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, way easier to go from there to the thing that you probably should be doing. Should is a choice word, but
are choosing to do.
Yeah, right.
In the future.
Yeah.
I think that's a great. I'm glad I asked you the question.
Yeah.
It makes good sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, can you do that before work?
Right.
Can you put the phone down or before bed?
Yeah.
Right? That's an easy one. There's no real effort. But most people can't. They put the phone down, roll over, lay there, and think, why can't I fall asleep? For however long.
Yeah. Yeah.
My wife is one of them. It's just wild to me. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to I can just turn my phone off at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
It just goes away. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Everything's closed. And I do have someone I live with that if something really bad happened, they would call her. So it's even, I don't have that FOMO kind of concept.